I don't got that bad of a mouth, do I? Fuck, shit ass, bitch, cunt, shippity-doo-wop. What's up, motherfuckers? It's the hater back again. We're here to talk about last night's Royal Rumble. That's right. Like every other Royal Rumble, especially since they've done 2 Royal Rumbles, the men's and the women's, this one also had a lot of matches that no one really gave a flying fuck about. You know what I mean? And, but we have to talk about them anyways because that's how we roll around these parts. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, the tag match between the women was in the pre-show. You know, this was a good move because I didn't know it was on the pre-show and I didn't watch the pre-show. I wouldn't have watched it anyways. But the pre-show is great because the pre-show you can put in a match or two there and people are going to be like, oh, now that this match is there, I have 0 reason to watch the pre-show, right? And I know that the real event is not going to have this horseshit match that I would have to skip, right? So I can start watching at 7 when it starts and not worry about anything, you know what I'm saying? So, but just for all those that might give a shit, Nia Jax and Shayna Cuck defeated Asuka and Charlotte Flair. You know, no one gives a fuck. Obviously, this is what was going to happen, right? Asuka is not going to go to WrestleMania as both, like, the women's champ on Raw and the tag champ. That makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? She's going to go there and defend her Raw women's title. So, you know, what the hell's the point, right? Likewise, Charlotte Flair, I mean, you know, she's not going to be in a women's tag match at WrestleMania, let's be honest, right? She's going to do something more important, probably. Next up, we had Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre. For some reason, motherfucks, they didn't start this match, like, immediately, right? So, like, both of them were in the ring, and they had, like, a 1 or 2 minute brawl, like, outside, when the bell hadn't rung yet, right? This would normally be okay, except for the fact that this match was 2 minutes and 32 seconds, according to Wikipedia, right? So it's like, if you had added the other parts, it would have been like a 5-minute match. You know what I mean? Like that would have been better, right? You know what I'm saying? Like 2 minutes and 32 seconds is an embarrassingly low amount of time. You know, this was like every other Goldberg match, you know, and every other Brock Lesnar match, right? It's like, I can understand, you know, Goldberg is an old man, so like, obviously, like, he's not going to be out there wrestling for a long time, and Brock Lesnar doesn't give a shit, so that's why he has these matches, right? The match with Rollins, the match with, what's his face? Drew McIntyre, right? Where it's just a finisher fest. You know, now, I'm not against this, but I am against doing this many times, right? I mean, there comes a point where, like, it's time to end it, right? Like, I like Goldberg as much as the next guy. I never did back in the day, but I appreciate Goldberg and I like what he stands for. However, Goldberg, part of his mystique is that he's bigger than other people, right? Part of why Goldberg works is because when you put him in there with, like, Daniel Bryan, you know what I'm saying? Someone like that, you're like, okay, great. Like, obviously Goldberg can still kick his ass, right? But Goldberg looked old as shit. First of all, he wasn't in the insanely good shape he has been in the past few years. I mean, he was still in great shape, especially for a man in his mid-50s, but he wasn't in insane shape, right? And also, Drew McIntyre is bigger than him. Like, it's not that he's just taller. He is bigger than him. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I don't know if he's broader. He probably is, but he just looks bigger. He has a bigger presence. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's almost ridiculous. Like, it felt like Drew McIntyre was wrestling Goldberg, you know? And this kind of begs the question of, what the fuck was WWE doing with Drew McIntyre when he was in 3-man band? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell was that all about? He's, like, out there losing to, like El Toro, or whatever the fuck his name was, like Torosito, the little bull thing, you know what I'm saying? El Torito, there you go, El Torito, right? You know, like, he's out there losing to El Torito and, like, you know, the fucking Colon brothers, or Colon cousins, whatever the fuck they're called, right? I mean, like, this guy's now champion, you know, and he looks the part, you know? He looks the part, but he doesn't wrestle the part. Let's be real. Drew McIntyre is not this exciting in-ring guy. When he came back to NXT, I thought he was, but, he hasn't really put on anything memorable, in my opinion. I mean, this might be because I haven't really been paying attention to his, this could be a WrestleMania main event matches with Randy Orton, just because, like, I don't really particularly find anything interesting about them either, you know what I mean? And I don't think Randy Orton is, like, this great in-ring guy. I mean, he's obviously, like, good at what he does, but he's not exciting. Like, he's not fun to watch. So, Randy Orton's, like, forte has always been the stories and, like, the character play and things like that, which are way more important than the match anyways. But Drew McIntyre doesn't do anything, right? He just comes out there. He's like every other face champion. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember that time when Drew McIntyre had that little thing with Dolph Ziggler, and he was like, everyone here is complacent. Everyone's complacent. Everyone's got too comfortable, right? Then it's like, then he acts like every other champion. You know what I mean? All these motherfucks that come in and have like an issue with WWE, like Mustafa Ali, Drew McIntyre, Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, all these guys that are like, I don't like the way things are around here. when and if they reach the top, they just become part of the status quo. You know what I'm saying? It would, even CM Punk, you know, it'd be nice to see someone that doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Like CM Punk is like, I'm going to take this title, hold it hostage. 2 weeks later, he's like, I'm back. I want ice cream bars. Like, shut the fuck up, nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like in real life, if wrestling wasn't like a predetermined sport, no company would lose prestige with CM Punk leaving as the champion, right? Like, imagine if CM Punk somehow became UFC champion and he was like, I'm going to leave and defend it in Bellator. Nobody would give a fuck. They'd have like a title tournament, like a title eliminator in UFC to crown a new welterweight champion, and that would be it. They'd be like, oh, the CM Punk was obviously a fluke champion because look at him. I mean, like, this guy can never be a champion of anything. You know, so he's so unbelievable that like nobody cares if he goes and defends it in New Japan. Like, you have John Cena, he's a bigger star, he's a better wrestler, he's better at everything. So I would like to see someone win the title and actually be different. You know what I mean? That would be nice. Like a face who is different. You know. So Drew McIntyre's title reign, in my opinion, has been a complete flop. But he beats Goldberg after hitting like just claymores. I'm pretty sure all he did was a spear. He speared Goldberg once, and then he just did claymores. Like, he didn't do anything else. He just did spears, claymores, and a headbutt. You know what I mean? Goldberg also didn't do anything. He did a few spears. He speared him through the barricade, and then he picked him up with a jackhammer, which he kind of botched. But, like, he botched it in a weird way. Like, he botched it just because he botched it. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's not because he was old or not strong enough. Because he was strong enough to hold him up, you know? But he just kind of botched it. Like, I think he just botched it because he doesn't do it often. So, whatever. No excuses made here. It is what it is. The match was complete garbage. You know what I'm saying? The match was 2 minutes. We talked about it for about 5. So let's move on, motherfucks. Next up, we had Sasha Banks versus Carmilla. Right? This actually wasn't that bad. I didn't really watch this. I don't really watch SmackDown as much, just because it's on Fridays, and even though we're under the coronavirus, and it's not like I'm going out every Friday like I used to when I was young, motherfuckers, but it's still Friday, so I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna do shit, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go like hang out or, you know, try to do something, right? So like I just kind of forget about Friday Night SmackDown. But I hadn't seen Carmella in like months, right? And she came out, she had that new entrance where she's like acting like a stripper. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, like her face is weird looking, you know? And then this Reginald guy came out, and like I don't like him. I mean, like, I would say there's potential here, but because he seems to be like an athletic guy from the little package they showed. But let's be real, he's out there getting submitted by women. You know what I mean? He's out there getting submitted by Sasha Banks. Like, this guy's never going to become WWE champion. They might as well just kill his dream immediately. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this guy is like the best wrestler ever, right? Let's say he becomes the new Daniel Bryan, right? Doesn't matter. People are going to be like, Sasha Banks made him tap out. You know what I mean? How can he ever be a believable like star? Even a mid-carder. You know what I mean? So there you have it. I mean, I don't like him. The match was all right. Sasha Banks wins. No one really gives a rat's ass, to be honest. Like, I mean, Sasha Banks is stale, you know? Like, her gimmick has been the same for like 10 years, and it feels like she's been in the company for about 30 years somehow. You know what I mean? Like, she's just boring, you know? Like, she's never been fun. She's never been believable in her gimmick, if you will, right? It's never been a believable gimmick, you know, to me at least, right? I used to think it was a great gimmick because I'm like, oh, this is different, you know, it's different than other women, right? She's the boss. But then when you see her like playing video games with Bayley and New Day, you know, you're like, this girl's not a boss, this girl's a nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like, she wants to give off this impression of like she's like better than you, you know, like you're not good enough for her. But in reality, she's like that anime fangirl that everyone had in high school that no boy wanted to talk to ever, you know? And then she like put on some makeup, I guess, and became a wrestler. So I don't really give a fuck. The match was all right, however, but it felt like a Royal Rumble title match, you know? It felt like a filler title match. That's the problem. That's the problem with the Royal Rumble beyond the matches itself, right? Then after that, we had the Women's Royal Rumble. This was like a pretty shitty match, I thought. There wasn't anything interesting happening. Like, none of the women in this match, like, none of them really feel like stars, right? The only ones that feel like stars are Charlotte, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. They're the only ones that have the potential to be stars. So it's like, and they're the last 3 women in the match. So it's like, all right, at least they got that part right, you know? Like, I remember I was watching it, and my girlfriend was like, oh, who do you want to win? I'm like, I don't care. Like, all 3 of them, like, make reasonable winners to me. Even Charlotte, even though she won, you know? So, Bianca Belair wins. Good for her. You know, she deserves it. I think, like, she's athletic, and she's a good wrestler. And she has like charisma, so like good for her. But I mean, insofar as the rest of the match goes, Everyone that showed up looked like a pig to me. Like, I swear to God, man, they had like Jillian Hall coming back. She's gained like 50 pounds since she left. Like, all these fat broads, you know what I'm saying? Like none of these girls really take care of themselves. It's fucking weird, you know? It's kind of like what Undertaker was saying about men being pussies and these women being fat fucks. You know, let's call it like it is, man. You see all these fat broads, like Ember Moon comes out. My girlfriend said, I'm like, oh, this is Ember Moon. She's like, is it because she's round? And I'm like, I chuckled a little bit. I'm like, yeah, probably. You know what I'm saying? This fat pig. You know? And then like Nia Jax comes out, you know, the fattest of them all. Like, and I got nothing against that, man. You know, if you're a big girl, you're a big girl. I don't care. It's just that, like, it's weird to see this when a few short years ago, they were presented as like really, really hot women, right? Now they're just presented as wrestlers, you know? And it's not interesting, right? And ironically enough, you see that the ones that they do push, typically, not always, are the attractive ones, like Becky Lynch, you know what I mean? Like, she's an attractive girl, so they push her, right? Bianca Belair is an attractive girl, so she's getting pushed, you know? Like, they're not pushing like Naomi and fucking Ember Moon and Jillian Hall, you know what I mean? Mickie James came out. That was pretty cool. I like Mickie James. I thought she was one of the more attractive ones for sure. Probably the most attractive one in my opinion. Victoria came out. That was pretty fun to see. It was fun to see Victoria. I mean, the whole thing about Victoria is she's a little old, but she could still do almost everything she could do. So that was pretty cool, you know what I mean? Like, one thing that people don't understand is that what was considered old in the year 2000 is no longer considered old now. You know what I'm saying? Things are changing, motherfuckers. A 45-year-old can go out there and do the same shit as a 35-year-old, and it's not even impressive. It's like, oh, that's what 45-year-olds do now, you know? So, like, I mean, I think Victoria's older than that, but it doesn't matter. The point stands, you know? So she was doing all the things she needed to do. Meanwhile, we had like contemporary superstars like Billie Kay. I don't understand this girl. Like I looked at her from head to toe, and I don't find one thing attractive about this broad. She's got like a weird pan face, these weird overly made up face, strange lips, a flat ass. Like, there's nothing about her that's interesting, you know? So it's like, and also she doesn't have any charisma, nor is she good in the ring. You know, like, I don't understand why they hire these girls. Like back in the day, at least you could be like, oh, okay, I don't know why they hired Dawn Marie, but oh, she's hot, so I guess they hired her for that, right? Now it's like you don't even know why they hired them. You know what I mean? Like you have girls that can't wrestle and aren't even good looking, and it's just like, dude, why are you just hiring a girl? You know, you're just hiring her because she's a girl, basically. It's stupid as shit, motherfuckers. So, anyways, that happened. No one really cared about that. Bianca Belair wins. Things of note in this match where Victoria comes back. Naomi does her. Naomi and Bianca Belair help each other from getting eliminated. Like, Naomi's like the Kofi Kingston of the women. You know, she has that spot every year of how she doesn't get eliminated, but never really wins the title. So that happened. What else happened? Nothing really. Tori Wilson came back. Like, nobody really gives a fuck about that. Like, you knew she wasn't going to win. Oh, I know what was interesting. Alicia Fox came back. Alicia Fox is one of the most underrated women in history, in my opinion, because she's actually funny. You know, she's funny and charismatic, looks good, and can wrestle. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know why she didn't get a push, but fucking Ember Moon, I mean, Ember Moon is actually not bad. She's actually a pretty good wrestler. But you know what I mean, right? So, that shit went down like it did, and pissed me off a little bit. But Alicia Fox comes back, and what's his face? R-Truth appears being chased by all the men. Now, I don't give a shit about the Women's Rumble, but I found this to be a bit disrespectful. It's like, dude, we're in the middle of our Rumble match. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't the pre-show. This is the Royal Rumble. You know, like this is like the most important match of these women's careers, right? They kept saying that. They're like, oh, Santana Garrett appeared, and they're like, oh, it's the most important match of her career. And then R-Truth comes with this like horse shit. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. It's part of the thing. And it didn't really interfere in the match too much. Alicia Fox pinned him, so she became the 24/7 champion. But beyond that, nothing happened. Like R-Truth's involvement in the match didn't ruin anything, you know? So eventually, Alicia Fox gets eliminated. R-Truth pins her again, wins the 24/7 title, which has been an abject failure of a title, in my opinion. There's really no point in having it, right? Like, there's no prestige. You know what I mean? There's, like, zero prestige in it. You know, like I thought to myself, if the 24-hour title meant anything, you know what I mean? If it had any meaning whatsoever, then what would happen is, like, I don't know who threw out Alicia Fox. I want to say it was Dana Brooke. Then Dana Brooke wouldn't, like, throw her out. She'd try to go and pin her instead. You know what I mean? Like, she would focus on winning the 24/7 title, right? But it has no prestige. You know what I mean? So it's not even worth focusing on. Like, you have people like R-Truth, you know, conversing with people in the back, and then they're not all attacking him because, like, the real wrestlers don't care. Now, if you're like fucking Humberto Carrillo, then yeah, it's a huge deal because you're never gonna win anything in that company, you know. But it was what it was. The match wasn't that great. I didn't really enjoy it, but it served as a good appetizer, as a good amuse-bouche, motherfucks, for the real Royal Rumble match that came on later. Before that, we had to tolerate Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. The things of note and interest here were there was a point where Roman Reigns' arm was trapped, right? And he was about to get counted out, if you will. Like, he was about to get, like, counted down because he couldn't get on his feet because his hand was chained to, like, the ground, basically, right? So he grabs the referee and throws him against, like, this thing, knocking him out, which gives him enough time to recuperate. Eventually puts the guillotine on fat boy Kevin Owens and wins the match. Now, this match was a waste of everyone's time because everyone knows that Kevin Owens was not going to win this match. You just knew this, right? You just know. It's like he's the Royal Rumble contender. You know what I mean? It's like those times when Ziggler would wrestle for the world title, right? And it's like, dude, you know Ziggler's not going to win because it's almost WrestleMania, you know? They're not going to put Ziggler as the champion at WrestleMania. And this brings up a bigger problem, which I will talk about in my next video. But that's neither here nor there, motherfuckers. Kevin Owens obviously loses. This guy doesn't deserve a spot at the card in WrestleMania, in my opinion. But it is what it is. Then we had the match that everyone was obviously waiting for, mother cucks. We had the men's Rumble, bitch boys. So the match starts out, I don't know how it was established, but I knew, like I read somewhere, that Orton and Edge were going to start. I don't remember this being established, but it was established. So, like, I wasn't surprised, right? Edge comes out. Michael Cole's like, oh, my God, it's Edge. What a surprise. And I'm like, what do you mean surprise? Like, I knew it was going to be Edge. So it was what it was, right? Edge and Orton come out. They start wrestling, right? They hate each other, so they're like wrestling outside. They're hitting each other with chairs, etc., etc. Sami Zayn comes out eventually as number 3, and he attacks Edge, right? Him and Orton have an alliance. Then Mustafa Ali, who was supposed to be this renegade who doesn't care about anybody, right? And hates everyone that's not in Retribution, because that was the whole point. The whole point was like, these are the people that are held back. And Randy Orton isn't held back, motherfuckers. Randy Orton is a legend. But for some reason, Mustafa Ali abandons his character and decides to go fight against Randy Orton, right? It was what it was. It's a 3-on-1 against Edge. The odds are already against the motherfucks. Jeff Hardy comes out at number 5. I thought Christian was going to come out here. It would have been perfect. Christian helps Edge. And also, like, it explains Edge's survival in the Rumble for a little longer, because he is like, you know, he has ring rust and he's not like a spring chicken by any means, right? So that happens. Jeff Hardy comes out. They wrestle. Dolph Ziggler comes out. He eliminates Hardy, who gives a flying fuck. Nakamura comes out at number 7, right? Now, I'm thinking to myself, remember when this guy won the Rumble? Right, no one gives a fuck. Now he's going to be eliminated by some no-name jabron, probably, right? So then, at number 8, Carlito makes his return, motherfucks. Carlito looked like $1,000,000. He looked like a heavyweight, you know? I watched a video this morning on WWE.com where it was like the best moments of Carlito's career or something, which hopefully means he's back, like, full-time. But, they had, like, the best moments of Carlito's career, and you see him in the past, and he was just this chubby guy. He was this chubby loser. Like, he wasn't cool at all. He didn't have anything going for him except for the fact that he had, like, an interesting voice, right? And he was just a chubby, like he was like a chubby cruiserweight. You know what I mean? He wasn't, like, in great shape, and he wasn't big, right? But now he was both in great shape and big. He felt like a big deal. He was way bigger than people like Ziggler. You know what I'm saying? He was kicking the shit out of everybody. You know what I mean? But eventually, I believe, well, who came out next? I think Xavier Woods came out. He started fighting with Mustafa Ali. Big E came out. Eventually, Ali eliminates Xavier, and Big E eliminates Ali. Now, this means absolutely nothing, because who the fuck gives a shit, right? Obviously, we all know Mustafa Ali's never going to win anything in this company. Like, this guy's just there just to, like, until his contract runs out, and then you'll see him in AEW, where he'll cut the same promo. He'll be like, WWE never believed in me, because my name is Mustafa Ali. Shut the fuck up, you fool. So anyways, then John Morrison comes out, followed by Ricochet, followed by Elias. Elias, interestingly enough, eliminates fucking Carlito, right? And he doesn't even eliminate him in like a sneaky way. He just beats him up and eliminates him. And I'm like, okay, this is weird, because Elias looks like a big guy. Like, you see him on TV, you're like, oh, Elias is a big guy. Like, he's muscular and everything, you know? Not so much now that they're pairing him up with Jackson Riker, who's about 3 times his size. But compared to Carlito, he wasn't that big either. I'm like, what the fuck, you know? So it was what it was. Eventually, Damian Priest, motherfucks. Damian Priest comes out. He starts kicking ass. Now, I'm thinking to myself, all right, weird. This is a little odd for your boy. Damian Priest is out there beating the shit out of everybody, right? And it gets weird when The Miz comes out, right? The Miz comes out and destroys the DJ equipment of Bad Bunny, right? Now, I'm cool with Bad Bunny. I enjoyed his song. His performance, I thought, was shit, just because, like his quote unquote art doesn't really find itself conducive to live performances. It was just him talking, basically, right? Like he's not like a real rapper, He's like one of these like weird new guy rappers where all they do is just like talk, and they have like a funny voice, and people are like, oh, that's good. He's got a funny voice. Like he's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't sound good, Like he's not like a real rapper where he's doing like wordplay and like sick beats, you know what I'm saying? And has like great flow and style and everything, right? So, but I mean, he's good for what he is. Like I ain't got no hate in my heart for Bad Bunny, right? Bad Bunny comes out after, and he's like confronting Miz and Morrison because they destroyed his shit, right? And then at this point, Damian Priest eliminates both Miz and Morrison, and Bad Bunny climbs the top turnbuckle and dives to the outside, wiping out Miz and Morrison. This was all right, The only problem I had with it was with this segment was I couldn't understand why they didn't just integrate this differently. You know what I mean? Like instead of having Booker T come out and just stand there and say, "Can you dig it, sucker?" Right? Have Booker T be in the match. I'm not saying take the spot of like Damian Priest, right? Just because Damian Priest is Damian Priest, like he's they might give him a push. You never know. But take the spot of someone else. Take the spot of like, at first I was going to say Riddle, like when I was watching the match, but then Riddle did really well. But take the spot of, I don't know, Elias, right? You don't need Elias or Ricochet. Give Ricochet or Elias a spot, Elias, let's say, to Booker T, right? The same thing happens. Booker T eliminates Miz and Morrison, fights another guy in the middle of the ring, hits the bookend, hits the scissors kick, does the spin Rooney, gets thrown out. You know what I mean? Like, how is that less entertaining than seeing Elias? You know what I mean? Of course, it's not less entertaining. It's way more entertaining, right? You see Booker T doing a spin Rooney. You see, like, Booker T, period, So, like, they had an opportunity here that I think they missed the boat on big time, my boys. So, anyways, what else happened? Riddle came out. Riddle did really well. Riddle was one of the low-key, like, best guys in this match, right? And it was good to see that because I like Riddle, Daniel Bryan came out. Michael Cole started saying that Daniel Bryan is a sentimental favorite. Kane came out, eliminated like a million people. Baron Corbin came out, didn't really do much, except for get eliminated by Dominic, right? Otis came out. Dominic came out. Bobby Lashley came out. This was a good one. Bobby Lashley is cool. You know what I'm saying? Bobby Lashley is a guy where you're like, oh shit, it's Bobby Lashley, dog. He might actually win the match, So he's out there kicking ass. I mean, he gets eliminated. He gets ganged up upon by a bunch of people. So it wasn't that great. Hurricane Helms comes out. There's no point in having this at all. He was like in the Rumble 2 or 3 years ago. So there's nothing really exciting about this, And then Christian came out, motherfuckers. My favorite wrestler of all time, Christian came out. Now, if there was any person that I believe got shafted the most by the fact that this wasn't a live show, it's Christian. Because he's the only one that deserves a pop out of all of these guest stars or new stars. You know what I'm saying? Christian is one of the best wrestlers of all time, and he didn't get the respect he deserved until later on, motherfuckers. Then AJ Styles comes out, another potential favorite, right? Meanwhile, I should note that early in the match, Randy Orton got injured. He like tweaked his knee or some shit, right? So he was out of the match. But Edge was still in there. And we were reminded about Edge still being in there every 1 or 2 minutes by cocksucker Michael Cole, he had like some sort of stopwatch on how long Edge had been there. And he's like, oh, Edge coming up on 42 minutes now. And then like a little later, he's like, oh, Edge coming up on 43 minutes and 25 seconds. Like this cocksucker kept talking about how long Edge had been in there, which to me was a spoiler. To me, it was such a huge spoiler. Like I was like, okay, obviously Edge is going to win. You know what I mean? Like, there's almost no doubt in my mind that Edge is going to win this match now because Michael Cole keeps focusing on how long Edge has been there, motherfucks. Then, eventually, after AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio comes out, Sheamus comes out, Cesaro comes out, and then Rollins makes his return. That's pretty cool. We haven't seen Rollins in a minute. Rollins comes out. That was pretty nice, I thought. And then Braun Strowman comes in at number 30, which apparently was also announced, which kind of ruined it for me because I thought that number 30 could be someone cool. Like Cena or maybe The Rock, because one of the rumors was Rock wins the Rumble, Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania. Now, obviously, I realize that's not going to happen now because Rock is not going to have like a big match like that in front of no fans. You know what I mean? Like there's zero chance of that happening. But it was what it was, right? Eventually, the last few people in the match are Riddle, Christian, Randy Orton, kind of, but he's like been missing. You know what I mean? But it was clear that he was going to come back, right? Who else? Fucking Seth Rollins was on the outside. Braun. The last 5 or 6 people. Edge, of course, right? And the way the match goes is eventually Riddle gets eliminated by, what's his face? Seth Rollins, right? And the last 4 people actually in the ring are Christian, Edge, Braun Strowman, and Seth, right? And Seth is like, let's do an alliance, Braun Strowman. So they do like a little impromptu alliance. Braun Strowman grabs Seth Rollins and slams him. He like one-arm power bombs him. It was sick, right? And then eventually Edge starts eliminating Braun Strowman via like Chris Benoit method, the way that Chris Benoit eliminated Big Show, like a little front chancery on the ropes. But Braun Strowman, this was pretty cool. Braun Strowman starts like countering it. He starts picking up Edge, you know, until Christian comes and grabs Braun Strowman's leg. Seth Rollins gets up and he eliminates both Christian and Braun Strowman. So now the last 2 people are Edge and Rollins, right? This ends really fast because Edge just throws Rollins out. Like Rollins goes for the curb stomp, misses. Edge tosses his ass out, right? Then Randy Orton comes in, right? As we all knew he would, and hits the RKO. But I was not worried. At this point, I was not worried because I knew that it didn't really matter if Edge or Randy Orton won. I don't really give a shit. You know, the point is one of them is going to win, and the other one's going to be champion. So it doesn't really matter if it's Edge or Randy Orton. So this moment of like, oh, is Edge going to do it, or is Randy Orton going to screw him, did not have the impact, the gravitas that they thought it would. You know, I didn't give a shit. I was like, oh, Randy Orton's here. He might win. Edge might win. I mean, I was happy to see that Edge won, you know, because like only Stone Cold has 3 Royal Rumble wins. Randy Orton might win it at some point, but Edge now has 2, you know. More people have 2 as opposed to one person having 3. So there you go, you know what I mean? That was pretty cool. Edge won. He celebrates the end. Now, the Royal Rumble itself I thought was pretty damn good. You know what I mean? Like the match, I mean. The event wasn't that great, but the match was pretty awesome. Now, obviously the best parts were Christian. I hope he returns full time, right? Or at least to some capacity, because he looked fucking amazing, right? First of all, he looked to be in insanely good shape, number 1. Number 2, he was wrestling his ass off. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is fucking awesome. He's a great wrestler. You know, he didn't miss one beat. He was just out there beating the shit out of everybody, right? So there was that. What else? Good, like, obviously other good things. Edge won at number 1. You know, and he didn't win like a pussy number 1. He was there the whole time, number 1. You know, which I enjoyed, right? That was cool. Randy Orton's involvement was also cool. I enjoyed that too, right? These were some of the good things. Matt Riddle, that was a good thing. Seth Rollins, that was a good thing. AJ Styles was a good thing. But there were also a lot of bad things with this Rumble, if we're being honest, motherfucks. Bad thing 1, the presence of Omos, who a few weeks ago was just Omos. Now he's Omos. Omos eliminated Omos. It's like Tomas. Anyways, Omos eliminated Big E. Right now, I don't give a shit about Big E. I know Big E's not gonna win, but Big E was one of the people that has been getting a push, and Big E deserved a bit better than this, right? And Omos just pulling him out is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And he eliminated somebody else too. I forget who it was, but he eliminated someone else. I think Rey Mysterio. Like, he eliminated Rey Mysterio and Big E, I believe, right? And it's like, dude, these are 2 guys that like they're, you know, they're good wrestlers. You know what I'm saying? Like, Big E is someone that could be a champion one day, and Rey Mysterio is a Hall of Famer, a guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer, motherfucker. So it's like, to be eliminated by Omos, right, would only make sense, unfortunately, if AJ Styles won. Like, if AJ Styles won and he wins via Omos or Omos, whatever the fuck his name is, right? That'd be kind of cool. It'd be like a different way to win the Rumble. You know, it's like, oh, AJ Styles won because of this guy. Like, right? And then you can do whatever you want with that story, right? So, Omos' presence was definitely bad because the Rumble is a serious event. You know what I mean? There's really no room for this kind of nonsense, right? Unless you do it, and the guy that you help either wins, or you do it and this sets up a feud with you and the person you eliminated, right? But we're not going to see Omos versus Big E or Omos versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. And if we do, no one's going to give a shit. So who cares, right? Versus, for example, like when Jericho and Shawn Michaels were feuding, or Michaels and Angle were feuding, right? Like, they started their feud at the Rumble, or the Rumble was an important part of their feud. That was great, right? That was awesome. It's like, all right, Kurt Angle went in and eliminated Shawn Michaels, but whatever, it is what it is. Like, Shawn Michaels is obviously a favorite, but it is what it is. Kurt Angle's Kurt Angle, right? They're gonna have a match at WrestleMania. This is gonna be awesome. You know, or when Goldberg gets screwed by Brock Lesnar, right? Back in the day, and it sets up like the feud that lasted 15 years or whatever. You know, so like Omos. It's not really in that level, obviously, yet. He's never had a match. And neither are the people that he eliminated except for Rey Mysterio. And nobody wants to see Rey Mysterio versus Omos because who the fuck cares, you know? So there you have it, right? That was a bad element of the Royal Rumble, I thought, personally. Another bad element, of course, was Michael Cole continuously telling us how long Edge had been in there. It took me out of the match so many times because every time he would say it, I'm like, okay, obviously he's concerned about how long Edge has been there, right? The only way you could have done this is one of two ways. Either someone is telling him in his earpiece how long Edge has been there, right? Or he has to stopwatch himself, which are fundamentally the same principle, right? The same concept. So in other words, someone is out there measuring specifically how long Edge has been there, right? This leads one to believe that Edge is going to at least be there for a long time, or more likely than not, that Edge is going to win. You know what I mean? It's so clear, right? And this kind of ruined it for everybody, right? I didn't really particularly enjoy that. Like I said, it took me out of it. It made me think Edge was going to win. That's probably partially why I also didn't give a shit that Randy Orton came out in the end, because I'm like, all right, Randy's not going to win this match. That's ridiculous, right? But even if he does, nothing changes, right? That's also something else that was bad separately. The fact that you started off with Edge and Orton, and you ended with Edge and Orton, right? It's like, what the fuck is that all about? Like, is this entire year about Edge and Orton? Yeah, I get it. Edge is cool. I love Edge. No doubt about it, right? But let's call it like it is, right? It's like they had their feud several times over. You know, they had their feud at WrestleMania, even before WrestleMania, right? Like, it started off at the Rumble, right? They had their match at WrestleMania that Edge won. Then they had like the best match ever or whatever that Edge won, right? A month after at WrestleMania. And then now they had like their feud continue essentially in the Royal Rumble this year. Like, this entire Rumble match was premised around Edge and Orton because they started the match and they finished the match. You know, everything else was ancillary. Everything else was filler, right? That's kind of how it felt, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of these Royal Rumble matches sometimes feel like filler, right? Where it's like you have all these people doing something, but the storyline is clear. Like Royal Rumble 2000. The storyline clearly was The Rock versus Big Show. You could have just had them in a singles match, you know, to determine who goes to WrestleMania, right? But you put it in the context of the Rumble, which is cool, don't get me wrong. But in this case, you started out with these two assholes, and there was really no hope of anything else happening, right? Once everyone else gets eliminated and you notice, you're like, oh shit, this match, this entire thing has been about Edge and Randy Orton. And the problem with that is now we're going to see it again at WrestleMania, most likely, you know what I mean? So that's when I got to thinking a little bit, all right? Now, this is, of course, some fantasy booking from your boy, but I like the way that I'm thinking this. First of all, Christian's return was obviously the best part of this Rumble, aside from the fact that Edge won. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's going to be the best part because, you know, it sets up WrestleMania. But Christian's coming back is great. Now, I know for a fact, right? I know for a fact that Drew McIntyre is not a WrestleMania champion, right? He just isn't. You know what I mean? Like, he's a guy that had his moment. He won the title at WrestleMania. But I really don't see him being the champion at WrestleMania this year. You know? Which begs the question of, if Randy Orton is meant to beat him, right? If Randy Orton is the guy that's going to beat Drew McIntyre, why not just have Randy Orton be the champion, right? Then you could avoid this WrestleMania circle jerk, right? Have an established champion already at WrestleMania, and you could avoid the Royal Rumble circle jerk, right? Which we just had to witness with Randy Orton in the Rumble again. And perhaps more importantly, you could avoid the Fiend circle jerk, but that would have been fine. That would have been totally fine. Like, him burning the Fiend as a WWE champion would have been sick. It would have actually added a bit of prestige to the WWE title. So, I know that Drew McIntyre is dropping the title at whatever Elimination Chamber, whatever the fuck they're going to have next, right? But I was thinking, how cool would it be, motherfucks, if Christian becomes the WWE champion? Now, I know they're not going to do this because Christian hasn't wrestled in 9 years. And he, quite frankly, he's never been the star that I've always thought he was, you know? So you can't really sell WrestleMania on, oh, Christian and Edge, like 15 years after they teamed together, you know what I mean? But that would be a sick WrestleMania. Edge and Christian in the main event, you know? It would be awesome. It would be like, holy shit, I can't believe both of them made it. Now, it's a little too late for that. They had that opportunity back in the day, motherfuckers. But that would be pretty cool, you know? So what I hope to see on Monday Night Raw tonight is that Christian comes back. And he comes back full time, kind of like MVP came back, but doesn't go and become a jobber, because he's better than MVP. So he goes and starts winning matches, right? Maybe he wins like the IC title or something at WrestleMania, I don't know, right? And then you start a steady push of Christian, you know what I mean? And maybe next year you do Christian versus Edge at WrestleMania, and you can take that so many ways. You can make that like a face versus heel match. You can make that like Christian betrays Edge, for example. You can make it Edge betrays Christian. You know, you can make it Christian's like upset because Edge was always like the A side and he was the B side. You know, there's so many ways around it. You can do two faces, right? Two faces just wrestling because they're best friends or whatever, right? It's an interesting match. It's inherently interesting, right? And that's what you need in WWE these days. You need things that are inherently interesting. There's none of that going on, right? That's why the last few WrestleManias have involved people like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, right? Because you don't need it to be inherently interesting if it involves Brock Lesnar, because he is inherently interesting, right? So it's like Rollins versus Lesnar is interesting because Lesnar's involved, right? Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre is interesting for the same reason, right? But you don't have the same level of interest unless something actually happens, right? So that's why Kofi Mania had to happen. That's why they pulled an audible on that son of a bitch, because they realized, they're like, oh, we have something interesting here, inherently interesting. People like Kofi Kingston. Whatever fucking plan we had isn't going to work. So there you have it, cucks. That's why I'm going to start the petition, you know, on this channel to give Christian one more match and a title one more time. Overall, the Rumble was pretty great, I thought. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. It gave me, I don't want to say chills or goosebumps because it gave me neither of those, but it felt like a big deal. It finally felt like a big deal. Like Edge winning felt like a big deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't this like random guy winning it. It wasn't like a piece of shit match. It wasn't anything like that. It was legit. It felt like a big deal, you know? And this is also bolstered by the fact that he won from the number one position. That's always a big deal, you know? I understand you can't keep doing that, but it was good to see. It was good to see them do that. So anyways, all the fucks, I'll see you guys later. Yeah, maybe tomorrow for that Raw review up in this bitch.